quite windy along the canal here today, so I'm not absolutely sure how this microphone in this new camera of mine will pick up the sound, but I'm hoping it's alright. But anyway, what I'm thinking about is this Jacques Ranciere quote that I've mentioned before. Can't remember which piece of writing it's from, but I'll try and remember and put it in the info box. But he's talking about what I think elsewhere he calls the poetics of knowledge. And what he's saying, I can't remember the exact wording of the quote, it's really irritating actually. But it's something like, he's talking about literature, by which he means all writings. And he says that the poetics of knowledge are the processes by which knowledge escapes literature and becomes science. It's something like that. Knowledge escapes literature and becomes science. And when he's talking about knowledge, he's talking about kind of prototypical empirical knowledge, the stuff that we consider as making up the knowledge base of scientific endeavour. And he says there are processes by which those particular writings that we call scientific writings, empirical scientific writings, there are particular processes which differentiate those from the body of other writings, which he calls literature. And he is specifically talking about writings and literature. He's not talking about kind of truth statements or the truth status at all of the claims that's made in any of those writings. He's kind of imagining you parachuting into planet Earth and only having access to the libraries and the writings. And he's kind of imagining in that situation where all you have to go on is the writing, would you be able to identify this particular subset of that writing, this particular body of writing within that larger body of literature, which somehow manages to differentiate itself and, as he says, escapes from literature and become this thing called knowledge. He doesn't list what those strategies are by which knowledge escapes literature. I've made a pass across some potential candidates for that, things that you find within the protocols of scientific writing, things like writing in the passive voice, which takes the centre of gravity out, and thereby just look at these seagulls here, it's just fantastic. So you take for example, passive voice, you take the eye out of the centre of it, it smooths out the space, there's no centre of gravity, potentially warping and viewpointing all of the writing, that kind of thing. But there are others as well, which I'll perhaps try to get to at some point. So there's various strategies. So why am I talking about that? Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking of is there a kind of analogue for that? Is there a perceptual analogue in lived experience whereby the real things of lived experience, the objects of the world, if you like, the facts of the environment in which we walk through, is there a process by which a set of strategies by which those escape from the flow of the world, if you like, and become the objects of experience? And the only way I can't really wrap my head around it entirely, so I'm probably explaining it really badly. But I'm just trying to think of an example within perception, because perception is probably the simplest I can think of, really. And as I'm walking along the side of this canal here, all kinds of interesting things are happening in my perception, my visual perception, but other perceptual things that's going on as well. These bushes and trees are kind of sweeping past me, swelling in size as they approach and then diminishing in size behind me. My perspective is changing the whole time, so there's all kinds of different things are aligning. But also simple things like as I turn my head, this colourful landscape that I'm moving through just turns into a kind of blur and then stables out again, then turns into a blur and then stables out again. So there's all kinds of things happening. There's a huge flow of sensory information. In addition to that visual information, of course, there's all those auditory things that's going on, the trees, the sounds of trains in the distance, but also little sounds that are kind of coming from my body, I think, little movement sounds, and also little visual experiences that are kind of coming from my body, little floaters in front of my eyes, those kind of things, and also all the other kind of stuff from other senses, olfactory stuff and tactile stuff, sensory motor stuff as I move through the environment. But out of all that massive flow of disparate information, well, out of all that, actually, most of it's discarded, I think. Just ignore most of it. Come on, you two. Come on, pups. I'd say most of that's just discarded, or I don't know, it's given a different kind of status, at least. I don't routinely think of that colourful blur that flies past my visual field every time I turn my head. I don't think of that as part of my experience. So there is some kind of process which is allowing the stable elements of the world to be prioritised and to escape from the not escape from literature, but escape from get my words tangled up here, but to escape from experience, kind of. And I think there are processes by which that takes place. There must be strategies by which that takes place. Strategies which allow me to identify perhaps the more salient objects of the world, the canal boats, the bushes, the canal itself, and the dogs and the trees, from these perhaps less salient, diaphanous and evanescent mirages, these blurs that flicker past, and the light bouncing off the surface of the canal, and the little floaters behind my eyes, those kind of things. I suppose what I'm inviting here is a comparison. Is there Ranciere's poetics of knowledge, by which certain stable, scientifically and empirically proven facts emerge, escape from the body of expression and invention and experience? Is there a parallel between that in Ranciere and what I'm talking about in terms of perception, by which the stable entities of my world escape from the world more broadly?